All right, rock and roll. Welcome, one and all, to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I'm your host, John. We welcome all, friend and foe, sinner and saint. And if you could kindly hit that like and subscribe button, we appreciate it. And if you're feeling just a little risque, feeling a little devilish, little on the edge, hit that notifications button. It means a lot too. And here we are, taking an honest, unabridged look at what goes on in the world of politics. You're not going to hear many of these things out maybe in the legacy media, but we're taking no prisoner, telling no lies, and let's get going with it. Let's burn it all down. All right, welcome. It's Friday, May 2nd, and Mike Walz, it was really good to know you. And he was President Trump's national security advisor, is the operative word here. And this is obviously a direct repercussion of the Signal Gate snafu that happened over a month ago, where somewhere around 16 internal Trump officials accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic, and he was able to, in real time, to see war plans, actual things that were going on in the field of battle against the Houthi rebels. And Mike Walz is the person who set up that chat. Pig Hegseth, the defense secretary, was the one who actually discussed the allocation of resources, like when were the bombers going to hit, where they were going to go. You know, it's better than real time, I guess, for the Houthi rebels. I mean, who needs spies when you got Pig Hegseth on a group chat with Signal Chat, right? So the administration waited till after the 100 days. They wanted to just have their little celebration because the optics are always better than the reality of it. They should have fired this guy a month ago, but they just waited, right? And like they should with Pig Hegseth. And let me tell you what nobody else is saying here. To me, this was pretty obvious. And I'm watching CNN, I'm watching MSNBC. Do you know the average age of a viewer of MSNBC is 70 years old? Oh my God. Jesus, man. They better get going quick, man. Everybody's going to die. That they are not talking about, anybody, is the reason they got rid of this guy. Yeah, the snafu was terrible. No doubt about it. But they think he's a leaker, right? You've got your phone contacts, and I'm sure somebody who's the national security advisor literally has thousands of people in his phone, right? Friends, foes, everybody, congressmen, senators, just whatever he needs, right? He added Jeffrey Goldberg, a journalist, the editor of The Atlantic. And I could tell you what this is. They think he is in constant contact with Jeffrey Goldberg. As a side note, after he was given the see you later, Chuck, or see you later, Mike, I guess would be the better thing, The Atlantic came out with an article praising Walz, talking about how he was one of the competent people in the administration. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. You know, to me, it's all a dumpster fire, right? I mean, it's like, oh, this is the best piece of clothing at Goodwill. Yeah, okay, great. Enjoy, right? They think the Trump administration, nobody is talking about it, they thought he was the leaker. Okay? Now, this is an administration that currently is giving polygraph tests to top officials in every department to see if they are having contact, if they are giving out any inside information to the press. Because the Trump administration, in their paranoid delusion, does not want anybody to talk about anything. And look, at the end of the day, no administration wants to have inside internal documents get out. Obama was very adamant against it. Actually, Obama pushed back against the press. You know, love Obama, but, you know, the free press is what keeps them honest. Obviously, Trump, I didn't hear too much about Biden. Okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, they want to keep all their internal strife, whatever it is, inside the House. But that's not possible with the press corps that we have. We have literally hundreds of outlets that are always trying to figure out what's going on. And Mike Walz, to me, it looks like he was obviously in contact with Jeffrey Goldberg. So when stories end up in the Atlantic, who else are you going to look at? There's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the Trump administration. They're trying to purge the leakers. Well, it looks like they got one. And I'm going to tell you something else that nobody else is talking about. Pig Hegseth, the defense secretary, that man's dead man walking. He's going to be gone real soon. Now, they're going to space it out. But I mean, I would say within 2 months, that guy's, sorry, Chuck, head back to Fox. Here's your bottle of gin. You know, maybe you can go to a conservative conference and assault another woman. I don't know. You know? Oh, alleged. But to me, I saw what was coming here because the last week, everywhere I saw Pig Hegseth, he was praising Trump. And like the prostitute to the pimp, oh, you're the best, honey. You're the best. That's what Pig was doing because he was trying to keep his job. He knew the thunder was coming. Mike Walz, he moved from the West Wing. He's going to New York. They're going to nominate him, supposedly, for a UN ambassador, which they have not filled the position yet. And we shall see. Now, Marco Rubio is going to supposedly, the current Secretary of State, is going to slot into the national advisors or national security advisors role. To me, that guy's he's got some problems here. First of all, you haven't figured out the Ukraine thing, and the tariffs are going to come and hit America. They're in literally 3 weeks. Yesterday was the last day that ships came to America that were not subject to the tariffs, the 145%. I was talking to a Republican that I know, yeah, maybe I'm a leaker. Maybe I am. And we were talking about the tariffs, and I said, you know, the Temu and Shine exemptions go off on Saturday. And what happened was in the first Trump administration, you remember that guy, the guy who was going to get real tough on China, they instituted 145, or they had tariffs on China, but they gave them exemptions for any order under $800. Well, looking at the site, this is kind of crazy. 92% of the Temu orders are under $800. Oh, wow, what a shock, right? So they weren't subject to tariffs. Start Saturday, they will be. And we'll see how people react to that. If you have an item and it's $60 or a basket or a cart, $60, you're going to be basically paying another $70. We'll see how long that lasts, right? I can imagine not too long. I got a feeling there's another pause coming. I don't know. Let me get the magic 8 ball out. Is there going to be another pause? Very likely, you know. So let's move on to other things in the news. Let's talk about RFK, the Health and Human Services Secretary, a very anti-vaccine human being, except in his Senate confirmation, he walked quite a lot of that back. Well, now that he has been confirmed, seems like the old Robert Kennedy is back. Trump administration plans to impose new testing requirements for new vaccines, a demand that could delay the availability of the next round of COVID-19 vaccines and complicate the approval of other things. This is really an interesting story. Since COVID, they've come out with the original vaccine for COVID-19. They've had 4 updates. And the reason they have is because the SARS-CoV virus, which killed so many beautiful Americans, approximately 1.5 million, keeps evolving. And it's like I've explained previously, you have to understand why viruses are viruses. They always mutate because at the end of the day, even though they're lethal, even though they're homicidal, even though they're genocidal, they want to live. They want to live. And like any living thing, it wants to find a way to get through. It's not going on a kamikaze mission saying, here, humans, figure out a way to eradicate us. No, that's not what it is. At the end of the day, and this is how difficult this whole process is, we still haven't found a cure for the common cold. We haven't found a cure for HIV. Yeah, we've been able to mitigate a lot of their dire consequences or effects, but we haven't been able to cure it. Can you imagine how much money somebody or some company would make if they had a cure for the common cold or the flu? We've been fighting this for 100 years, with medical science. I think the quote unquote cure for the common cold first started coming out in the 1950s, right? Well, it didn't actually eradicate it, it just mitigated the symptoms. That's all it did. So now the administration will require that all new vaccines be tested against an inert substance known as a placebo, okay, sugar pill, whatever you want to call it, before they can be made available. Okay, let's delay the process a little, which is a radical departure from the past practices. This comes from Andrew Nixon, the spokesman for RFK. The latest statement triggered alarm bells in virulent scientists around the world, vaccine scientists. They believe that Kennedy is trying to undermine the faith and the guarantees that people have in vaccines currently. He's trying to put another level. He's trying to give you something else to think about, deflect. Let's just consider it deflecting what it is. This comes from John Paul Offit, a University of Pennsylvania vaccine expert, one of the leading vaccine experts in the United States. I think it is the interest of Robert Kennedy Jr. to make vaccines more expensive, less available, and more feared. He is an anti-vaccine activist, a science denialist, who is going to do everything he can to tear down the infrastructure in the country of vaccines. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a dangerous man. Hey! You got to come on the scorched earth. You're telling it like it is. Yeah, exactly. This guy is dangerous, right? Experts continue to dispute the claim that key vaccines aren't tested against a placebo. There's a myriad of tests that the CDC, NIH, and the Health and Human Services Department go through before a vaccine is authenticated and it's certified, right? The ingredients in some vaccines, such as COVID shots, which we talked about earlier, have been updated regularly to better match the strains of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in circulation without fundamentally changing the vaccines themselves. They're trying to be more effective against the greater population. Now, the Trump administration put out a response to this, saying except for the COVID vaccine, none of the vaccines on the CDC's childhood recommended schedule were tested against an inert placebo. Right. Hey, this just in, we've won against smallpox. We've won against measles. Well, until you came in, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We've been able to defeat polio. Don't give me this autism is something out of that. Okay, that's the big thing, but whatever. Also, Nixon, the spokesperson for RFK Jr., questioned the reliability of existing vaccine monitoring programs, which he described as regulatory malpractice. They have these monitoring programs to see if the viruses are changing, how the number of deaths are still going on. Are they going up? Are they going down? Are people getting infected? What's the variant rate? You need all these things for science. That's the thing about science. It's fact. It's not somebody's supposition. It's not somebody's opinion. Facts are facts. Well, except now, right? That don't really happen. Now, here comes the real winner in the story. And here's where you're not going to hear too much about it. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. These are very concerning statements and moves by the HHS and Kennedy. Because now that vaccination rates are falling, diseases like measles are starting to explode across the continent. COVID is still killing hundreds of Americans every week. I'm going to give you a second here to think about this. How many people in America do you think died last week from COVID? Off the top of your head. I will say I thought it was going to be somewhere like 50 or 75. That's what I thought. All the data I could find, and I will tell you this, the CDC is scrubbing their website. I was on their website for about 40 minutes tonight trying to figure out how many people they scrubbed that data. I had to go to the New York Times. I had to go to other sources. Last week in America, in the continental, well, I can't say that, in the United States proper, 175 people died from COVID. 175. Wow. Would you have thought that? That's quadruple the number I would have anticipated, right? Let's talk about measles. Right now, today, May 2nd, there's 39 cases in El Paso, Texas. There's 16 cases in New Jersey. There's 14 cases in a neighboring county to El Paso. Yeah. Seems like we got that all under control, huh? We did have that wiped out until people started to rebel, let's call it rebel, against vaccinations. And that started with Trump in 2020, which for the life of me, I do not understand. He invented the vaccine. He should get credit for it. He saved hundreds of thousands of lives. Now, he killed a lot of people because he acted like the virus didn't exist. But, at the end of the day, you got to give the devil his due, right? This appears to be a full-on attack on vaccines. This is where this administration is, and they are cutting out the legs from underneath it. Robert Kennedy has pledged to investigate vaccines and their link to autism, which thousands of scientific studies have failed to produce a link. Trust me, he is going to rig this study. He is going to rig the results, straight out. All right, what else we got in the news? A Trump-appointed federal judge blocked the administration from using the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan migrants. Basically, what is going on is there's 3 migrants in a Texas holding detention center, and they were on the route to being deported, and they filed a habeas corpus. This judge said, you're right. They can't use the Alien Enemies Act, which is basically something from the 1800s. We used it in World War I, World War II, part of the Civil War, that you have to have a hostile foreign environment. Well, gang members are not a hostile foreign environment or government that is assaulting the tenets of our democracy, right? Judge Fernando Rodriguez said Trump's claim of an invasion by the Venezuelan gang MS-13 exceeds the scope of the statute and misrepresent the law's original meaning. Duh. I mean, any 4-year-old could have figured that out. The proclamation makes no reference to an organized armed group of individuals entering the U.S. with the goal of overtaking the U.S. At the end of the day, it would be like me becoming the president and saying, you know what? Anybody with an assault rifle is a threat to the United States. I am going to have them deported under the Alien Enemies Act. Now, it's a bullshit thing. It's a total bullshit thing when I'm saying that. It's not right. But that's the same thing they're applying to these people. Look, at the end of the day, and this is where the Democrats got to get their head out of their butt, we have to portray it that we are for deportation if it's done legally, if it's done with due process. Okay? Habeas corpus, due process, fine. If you want to say somebody is a bad guy, bad girl, you want to deport them, go through the process, bring it in front of a judge. Look, who do you think the judge is? If everything's equal, who do you think they're going to side with? The entire United States government or one human being? I mean, really. I'm going to go one-on-one with Michael Jordan. Gee, what? Who do you think's going to win? Yeah, I know, me, right? All right. The Senate, trying to evoke some power in their fickle nature, failed to pass a bipartisan resolution to roll back Trump's tariffs. Deadlocking 49-49 after 2 senators missed the vote. 3 Republicans, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, and Rand Paul of Kentucky, joined Democrats in an effort to end the emergency powers. J.D. Vance broke the tie, so it didn't go anywhere. Seems like also in the news, the U.S. and Ukraine signed a deal giving Washington priority access to Ukraine's oil, gas, and mineral projects. Okay. Prostitutes got to pay the fee to the pimp, right? The agreement creates a jointly managed investment fund that gives the U.S. first claim on profits. I wonder if we're going to buy Trump's crypto with it. But includes no military or security guarantees. Trump framed the deal on Thursday as a repayment for U.S. support. Let's get back to that. That is a really key thing. He keeps beating down that Ukraine owes us money. They need to repay us money. Okay, what about Israel? 75, 80 years they've been on the American teat. When are they going to pay us back? What? Ukraine was a democracy. They actually sent troops to Iraq and Afghanistan to help us. Israel's a democracy too. I haven't seen any numbers of troops they sent to Iraq. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I'm not gonna do anything without facts. But at the end of the day, nobody in the administration is talking about them repaying us. WTF, right? Come on. All right, finally, the Trump administration cut $1 billion in mental health grants for schools this week, ending a key part of the bipartisan law passed by after the Uvalde school shooting that killed 21 people. The Education Department, I didn't even know it was still around. Linda McMahon, I thought you were just out there covering for announcers on the WWE who molested young boys, claimed the Biden-era grants violated civil rights law and were used for race-based actions like recruiting quotas, but gave no examples. What a shock. Accusations, but no proof. There you go. And that's it today for the Scorched Earth podcast. I want to tell you all, thank you for listening. I love you all. We're in this together. We're going to win because we're on the side of right and good. And if you could, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you soon.